responsible people for turning this convening from dream to reality. Please welcome Samir Saran, President of the Observer Research Foundation, and Davit Karapetyan, Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Armenia. David, can I hand it over to you?
Phew, Samir. Yep. I think we survived the official part, yeah?
We did.
Hello, my friend. I'm happy you are here in Yerevan. I know Armenians and Indians share a common trait of being always late, all the time. But over 30 years, really? What took us so long to get back together after 4 centuries of familiarity and friendship? By the way, we have a side event on academic issues discussing 400 years of friendship of Armenians and Indians. You have now harbored at the Armenian dry port, where the world's biggest democracy encounters its aspiring friend, which hand in hand connect to our friends in Asia, Europe, and transatlantic through multimodal supply chains of democratic values. Finally, we are united as Vasudhavya Kutumbakam. We can connect to our cousins in South. We can travel to our friends in the North. East and West are so close. It just takes a crossroads of peace to bring the whole family together. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we all need to start investing today to shape the tomorrow we all want. Armenia is a frequent participant of the Ryzenia dialogue, and this is how we came up with the idea to work with our friends at the Indian Observer Research Foundation to launch the Yerevan dialogue. Allow me to introduce my good friend Samir Saran, President of the Observer Research Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. And I think before we take this session forward, I would like all of us to acknowledge the superhuman effort made by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Armenia. I can see the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs here. And of course, David is like the Superman who is both the Secretary General and the head of a think tank in Armenia. He's doing both the jobs, my job and the job of the government for Armenia. So please join me in applauding David for his wonderful efforts in putting this together. We are not only very similar, but we are also in some ways the essential items that bind the world together. In this global world, there are 3 things you will find everywhere: Armenians, Indians, and potatoes. It's true. We are the quintessential global beings. And of course, the Armenians were first off the block, and globalization was possibly a byproduct of traders from Armenia who unlocked the land routes and connected the world. Of course, it was accelerated through others as well, but this is where it all began. In many ways, this is where the first iteration of globalization began. But now, there is something again that's very common about Indians and Armenians. You go to a technology company boardroom, you go to a cabinet meeting in any country of the world, and you'll have people from either the Indian origin or an Armenian origin holding important positions. I was in Hungary just a couple of weeks ago, and we had Armenia there as well. So it's incredible how the communities, as communities, we are people who go to the world in peace, in pursuit of knowledge, in pursuit of friendship, never for political expansionism, never for changing the borders, never for acquiring material wealth. It is the quintessential global ethic that now needs to be reinvented in the 21st century. So, David, I'm glad we are working together. I'm glad this dialogue has come together as a way of coming back after 4 centuries and building something new together. And let me ask you, first off, that since we have put this together, we have folks from so many countries here. What are your ambitions around the dialogue? I have mine, but let me ask you yours first.
Of course. Today's, increasingly complex world, where interconnections and diversity must serve as opportunities to build bridges, where education and scientific advancement must be at the forefront of reaching the ambitious sustainable development agenda, where heritage must connect generations, cultures, and peoples. It is our utmost importance to have an international community that is truly committed to these values and goals. In order for us to withstand the challenges of globalization, in order to meet the demands of people without diminishing the ability of future generations to meet theirs, in order to change the technological advancement and digital solutions towards a common vision for the future of humanity, in order to turn our differences into our strengths, in order for the relations between various ethnic groups, nations, and countries, small and big, near and far, not to lower the level of monologues. We need dialogue, because we speak to each other, but very few listen to each other, like us. It is with this vision that the MFA decided to launch the Ryzenia dialogue with ORF, Samir. And let me ask another question to you. Since you host these conferences around the world, we see it on Instagram all the time, you're traveling here and there, what outcomes must emerge out of Yerevan dialogue? What do you think?
So, Davit, I think everything that you have said clearly must be an objective for us. We must respond to the 4 or 5 important questions the world has posed to all of us: technology, climate change, global governance, peace and security, human welfare. All those are fine. But I think what I would like to see coming out of the Yerevan dialogue is a Yerevan community of thinkers, a community of purpose, folks who can pick up the phone and talk to each other, folks who can knock their heads and try and find solutions that their own societies grapple with. So I think what really I would like here is for all of you to find 4 or 5 or 6 people in this group belonging to places that you don't know about, getting to know about those places, and beginning a new friendship. I think friendships out of Yerevan can really help us build a policy community that can actually achieve much of what you outlined. So I would like this conference to sow the seeds of the Yerevan community that will shape the world together, that will respond to the challenges together in friendship, in the spirit that we had last evening at the beautiful vineyard where you hosted us. I want that mood to prevail when we discuss the tougher questions as well. The world is a complex place, but we can have fun while responding to those complexities.
You know,
But David, let me ask you a question. Since I have kind of listed the challenges that I think we must respond to, let me ask you your take on what could those challenges sitting in Armenia be for you, and Armenia's role in responding to these as both an international actor and a regional player.
As we found out during last years, the events that take place in one part of the year are immediately echoed in the other. The developments in other weakening the food security, increasing inequality, the pandemic, accompanied by the disruption of global supply chains, and the further exacerbated situation caused by armed conflicts in various parts of the world bring about new challenges and complexities in present-day international politics. South Caucasus, where Armenia is located, we are between Asia and Europe. We've always been at the crossroads connecting the north to south, east to west, with all political, economic, and cultural features pertinent to being a major trade and cultural highway. It has as well been a juncture where different political systems meet, where changes are born, including in the form of democratic upheaval and reform. Samir, through your interactions with diverse stakeholders, what kind of partnerships have emerged as important for the world we live in?
So David, I'm convinced that in the world we have three unique communities operating in silos, operating in isolation. We have the technology and innovation community that is producing outcomes for the sake of technology and innovation and wealth creation. There is a political and strategic community that is playing the chessboard again in the 21st century. You know, the 20th century chessboard has now got a 21st century avatar, and people are enjoying moving the pieces to change the maps and political equations and dynamics. So there's a second community, that's the political community. And then, of course, we have what I call the business community. And they are quite determined to preserve gains, to prevent newcomers from changing the status that they have benefited from, and in many ways a zero-sum approach to global trade and global connectedness. Now, I think our job as folks who are invested in the policy world is to connect these three communities. I think the track 2 dialogues, the track 2 is essentially the undergirding that connects these three different communities and gives it a moral, ethical, and a human framework around which those three must operate. We are both the checks and balances, we are also the ideas chambers. We have to actually sometimes lead the policy debate, sometimes apply brakes to it so that it doesn't run awry. And most importantly, we need to ensure that these three different communities today work together for the benefit of all of us. Let me, before I have a question to ask you, but before I turn to that, let me also confess, as someone from the research and policy community, let me take responsibility that I don't think the academic world and the track 2 world has necessarily been producing ideas like they had been in the past. I think we are justifying decisions taken by the track 1 more often than putting frameworks that track 1 is forced to take notice of. I think some of our political leaders are leading the ideas game, and the track 2, in fact, is following. So I think the track 2 needs to up its game, otherwise we are going to become irrelevant in the future. But you mentioned the birth of transitions in this geography. You know, you have two, in my time here and meeting all the wonderful people in Armenia, I think there are two intrinsic values that you treasure as people. One is democracy. And of course, so the leader of a democratic society in this part of the world. And the second, I have no hesitation in saying that you are a technology powerhouse in the making. So in that sense, how are you as track 1? Now I'm going to ask you as track 1, catalyzing, supporting and sustaining these two important attributes of Armenia, democratic leadership and technology leadership.
You know, we had a peaceful Velvet Revolution back in 2018. Since then, the government has been implementing a wide range of reforms to ensure full and unimpeded realization of civil and political rights, including rule of law, independent judiciary, campaign against corruption, strong campaign against corruption, and strengthening democratic institutions. The progress has been asserted by reports of various reputable international organizations like Freedom House, Gallup International, etc. As said, democracy is not a destination but a continuous struggle. One that not only demands the strong commitment on behalf of political leaders, but also the active participation of its citizens. Armenia's youth has been a driving force in this continuous struggle. Today, democracy is not only about ensuring the rule of law and the protection of human rights, providing for transparency and accountability, promoting good governance and sustainable development, but it has also become a very important tool for protecting national sovereignty and the strategic autonomy of states, providing for economic growth and the integration of states into the international system. As a landlocked country, with its borders from the east and the west in the blockade for the last 3 decades, with comparatively high trading costs in goods, Armenia has seen high-tech digital exports playing an important role in fostering Armenia's growth. Today, the high-tech sector is Armenia's economy has around 6% share of the GDP and the sector is growing every year by 20–30%. This is a field where Armenia indeed has much to offer to the world, as innovation is driven by Armenian talented youth. And Samir, I have a last question for you. Armenia has been a frequent participant of the Voice of the Global South Summit hosted by India. How do dialogues like these contribute to evolution of the leadership of the South?
You know, I think that's a conference by itself on the global South. But two short points. I think first, what is really required today is for the emerging and developing countries to take back their identity from the owners in the North and the West. I think what these dialogues first do is define what the South is in grammar and vocabulary coming out of the South. If you ask someone in the Western capitals about the global South, the terms that were used to describe the third world was corrupt, bad infrastructure, disease, malnutrition, and every other challenge that confronts humankind. That was the description of the global South coming from, it was a reductive term, it was used in a negative manner. What has happened in the last couple of years, and I think for that we must acknowledge the G20 leadership of India particularly, but also of their other southern partners, Indonesia and Brazil in this particular year, that we have reclaimed the definition of the South. South today is more about green transitions. South is about putting a digital society in place. South is about delivering a human-centered development agenda. It is about responding to climate change in a collective fashion. It is about building coalitions in a polarized world. It is about getting two G20 consensus documents when Europe cannot agree with anything with anyone. And yet the Global South was able to do it. So Global South is about being together. And I think that definition has been taken back by us. And now comes a question, who leads it? No one needs to lead it because we are a collective. No South countries are similar. We are dissimilar in our constituency, and we will have to work together as folks and agree that the future is common, the pathways to get there may be different, diversity must be celebrated, heterogeneity is a strength. We don't want one value, one cultural, one political system. Let us celebrate who we are as individual humans and as different societies. And that is the Global South. David, thank you for asking this question, but it is a conference by itself.
Thank you, Samir. Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends, as I already told some of you, I have one big request from all of you. Enjoy Armenia. Enjoy Yerevan. Have fun time here. We are here to discuss important things, but also we are here to chill. We are looking forward to your active engagement during the Yerevan dialogue. I want to thank Samir for helping organizing this event. I want to thank everyone who helped organizing everything here you can see, starting from the technical staff to the volunteers to our colleagues that had hard nights and hard days these recent weeks. I want to thank our sponsors for helping us to bring this event to you, and hope once again you enjoy Yerevan, enjoy your time here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that was a very apt tone setter for the rest of the day. We're going to play a little bit of catch up, so we'll take only a 10-minute break now and reconvene at 12 noon sharp to hear the next panel.